Good evening, everybody. I'm Fictional Crystals, and we learnt some stuff from Monsters and Mana. Monsters and Mana was a nice breather episode. It didn't relate much to the main plot. Or did it? You see, the thing with episodes like these is that they normally include foreshadowing. Whether through visuals, dialogue, or intentional parallels, they hint at something. One example of this from another show is Steven Universe. A very relaxed episode called Onion Gang had a character who was wearing pink fake their death. This scene came out of nowhere, and it really contributed nothing to the episode. But several years later, it turns out the scene foreshadowed one of the biggest twists on the show. The main Monsters and Mana character I want to focus on is Coran as Wizard Dakin. Coran was the lore master of the game. He dictated what was going on. His character Dakin got travelers to do his dirty work, gathering crystals, treasures. Dakin turned block Hunk's character's village to stone. Dakin had powers similar to that of an Altean alchemist outside of the game. Dakin collected special crystals.
The only person that uses this type is the evil wizard Dakin.
Dakin was a master of disguise. He had several forms, but he was not the true villain of the game, at least according to Coran. Coran dictated the game. He could make up the story the way he wanted. He told Coran to wait until he found out who Dakin was working for, and that maybe Takashi Shirogane would be able to avenge his master.
Wait until you find out who Dakin was working for. Maybe you'll finally be able to avenge your master.
Now, is it just me, or does this wizard sound similar to a certain character outside of Monsters and Mana? We've already seen foreshadowing in Monsters and Mana to events that happened later in Season 6. Hunk was the first to see the crystal the ogre left. He found the crystal the castle became at the end of the season. Shiro kept dying and coming back, referencing the many clones of him and his literal death. I don't care if he was a clone, he was adorable in this episode. And this whole deal with him returning as his twin brother was also a reference to Beast King Golan, the 80s anime Voltron originated from, in which Takashi had an identical twin brother that came back to replace him. I love how Legendary Defender makes fun of ridiculous things from old Voltron versions.
Just get me to Space Hospital.
And this version of the Blazing Sword was an original Voltron reference too. Anyway, back to the wizard. Who was Dakin serving? Coran implied that going after Dakin's master would lead Shiro to avenging his master's death. Shiro's master was killed when a Leviathan Demon attacked their monastery. Fire was everywhere. This blue demon was who Shiro was on a quest after. The demon didn't show up in the episode again to fight Shiro. However, the demon was still a part of the game for them. I believe the demon was who Dakin was working for. He was under its control. That's why Coran said Shiro can avenge his master's death by finding out who Dakin worked for. By finding Dakin's master, he'd find the demon. But just because Dakin wasn't the biggest threat of the game didn't mean he wasn't a hard foe to beat. Dakin the wizard is quite reminiscent of a certain witch in the Voltron universe, Honerva. He was played by an Altean, that being Coran. Dakin possessed incredibly strong powers, one of the most powerful in the land. He said Orita.
I am the most powerful wizard in all of Orita.
Orita sounds awfully similar to Oriond. Honerva's the most powerful currently living Altean in the known universe, only rivaled by Princess Allura. Honerva recently went to Oriond and gained even more Altean alchemy knowledge, thus giving her more power. Dakin's powers shot out like Honerva's powers. He could create these portals. And as we saw a couple of episodes later, so can Honerva now that she's been to Oriond. Honerva was so powerful that she bypassed the sages of Oriond's attacks with her raw magic. She didn't need an offering like Laura and Lotor did. Dakin collected crystals. Honerva isn't really a crystal collector, but the Galra and Alteans do use Balmera crystals for power. And she takes quintessence. Dakin got adventurers to do his dirty work, unbeknown to them. While getting people to do what they want also fits Lotor, Honerva definitely does the same. She has many puppets, many spies, many people doing her dirty work. Especially many Shiros. Coran had no idea he was a clone. He didn't realize he was doing exactly what Hagar wanted. Narti had no choice either. As for the other stuff about Dakin, that's where the foreshadowing came in. Dakin turned a village to stone, but that wasn't all he did. He stole their life forces. Life forces in the Voltron universe is quintessence.
It is life itself.
Quintessence has always been a drive for Honerva. She is a powerful Altean alchemist, one of the first known to work with it. Hagar has been shown to be able to take quintessence from planets, leaving the planets lifeless. Quintessence is in everything living, not just planets. Keith, Crowley, and Romelle found out that hundreds of Alteans had their life forces, their quintessence sucked out of them. Speaking of that lot, when Keith, Crowley, Romelle, and the wolf arrived at the castle, Hagar was watching them. She saw and heard everything that happened thanks thanks to Coran. She knows about the Altean colony, and don't think she's going to do nothing about it. Lotor said Hagar has been collecting Altean items for thousands of years.
She was constantly seeking Altean magical knowledge that she could pervert for her own power.
She's hungry for knowledge, power, and quintessence. What Honerva's exact goal is perhaps even more obscure than what Lotor was trying to do.
Stopped trying to figure out Lotor's master plan long ago.
What's her endgame? What's she hoping to achieve in the long run? Knowledge like it was originally? Or is there something darker? Dakin turned a village to stone and took their crystals and life forces. Perhaps their life forces were represented by the crystals in monsters and mana. What if that's foreshadowing a path Honerva is going to be heading down? She goes to the Altean colony that she knows about and causes havoc. She renders them all almost completely lifeless by taking their quintessence for her own uses. Or Hunk's character's village being turned to stone might allude to an eventual attack on planet Earth. The paladins are heading there now. Dakin got the team to do exactly what he wanted. Like I said earlier, Hagar has many puppets. She and her son Lotor are both tricky. They know how to use people. Of course, she's already infiltrated the team with Coran, but that's not the last time she's messing with them. She knows how to make copies of people. She knows how to create new creatures. I speculate that she made Narti, and she can transfer life forces from one thing to another as seen by her old Robies. She'll play Team Voltron right into her hands. She knows their weakness. If they think she's hurting someone innocent, they'll come right into her trap.
I know your true weakness, that you value the lives of others.
Even if it turns out the so-called innocent person is working for her, Honerva will get Team Voltron to do or find what she wants for her work to continue, whether that be involving Altean alchemy, the Rift, or something else. There's been speculation that Romelle is actually one of Honerva's spies. Unfortunately, I don't know where this originated from, since I've seen quite a lot of people mention the same thing. Romelle being connected to Hagar surprisingly makes some sense. She was the only Altean Keith and Corellia saw outside of these pods. The colony is inside a Galra base. The sky and stuff in there is a simulation, like the one the castle had. She said Lotor had been harvesting Altean quintessence for generations. Her parents apparently were taken by him too. But we saw her in the crowd when Lotor first announced the second colony. It's true Alteans live longer than humans.
A castle that's like 10,000 years old.
Actually, it's 10,600 years old. You see, it was built by my grandfather. I often accompanied my grandfather to visit these majestic creatures when he was building the Castle of Lions.
But it couldn't have been generations if she was there when the first batch of Alteans went there. She implied that she was born in the colony.
This was the world I was born into.
Bandor and Romelle called the second colony new. Why did they call it new if it was supposedly there generations ago?
Generations ago, in an effort to increase our odds of survival, Lotor announced that he was creating another colony. So many of our people gone to the new colony.
These two Alteans on the left were from the supposed first batch of Alteans that went to the colony. On the right, there are the same Alteans with Romelle and Bandor. The lady was a part of the first batch to go to the colony, and so is Petrulius. The Altean Romelle recognized. Romelle doesn't look like she's aged at all. Like, what kind of generations was she talking about? Perhaps it was a mere continuity error. I can accept if the inconsistencies were just an accident. But either way, something feels off about Romelle's backstory. Lotor never got to explain his side of the story, and Romelle didn't know the full story.
I knew the truth, or at least part of it.
There was the scene from Voltron Defender of the Universe where Romelle turned out to be Hagar in disguise.
You'll be safe now, sister!
No, wait! That's Hagar!
Romelle was a real character in 80s Voltron, just on this occasion specifically, Hagar pretended to be her. In fact, Romelle is my favorite character from 80s Voltron. I don't doubt that Lotor really did find Alteans and use them. I've been saying that there's got to be more Alteans alive for ages, and Lotor basically admitted to it.
Were some lives lost in the process? Yes, but they were martyrs to a noble cause.
It's just Romelle's backstory that feels a little weird. If she is the real Romelle and not a fake or somebody with fake memories or somebody that's already being used, then I think Honerva will use her in the future. Maybe she'll be the one she uses to make Team Voltron do what she wants. That's another thing that happened in 80s Voltron. People used her to get to Team Voltron.
His guards stormed our palace and carried me away, to be used as a pawn in his evil plans to conquer both our planets.
Romelle is the closest to the Altean colony. If Honerva is to go there, it'll hurt Romelle the most. These are Alteans that she's known all her life, and life is being sucked out of them by yet another Altean. She is vulnerable considering it. Because of that, she can easily be manipulated. Dakin could change his form just like Hagar, both in the current version and the 80s. Another reason Honerva will be able to use the team. She can fake being someone else that they trust, or someone that appears helpless. Honerva's Altean, she can shapeshift. She can become any innocent person to trick the team in the future. When Dakin was slain, he came back stronger. Honerva has already died and came back stronger. But that leads me to the thing that brought her back and made her stronger in the first place. Voltron Legendary Defender is split into 3 parts. Arc 1, 2, and 3, each 26 episodes long. Arc 1 was seasons 1 and 2 combined. The main villain of that was Zarkon. Arc 2 was seasons 3 to 6. The main villain of that was Lotor. We are now about to enter Arc 3. Considering 2 out of 3 of the Global Royal family have been the main villains for the first 2 arcs, the 3rd arc should have the 3rd member of the royal family as the main villain. That is Honerva, the most powerful of the 3 and the one who has been behind basically everything since day 1. Zarkon would have been nothing without her. He could not have gotten the quintessence he wanted without her. Lotor couldn't have found the Alteans or entered the rift if it wasn't for her work. She is the biggest foe the paladins currently have. Zarkon and Lotor were simple warm-ups compared to what she's capable of. She's dictated the game from the start. However, Honerva isn't the strongest foe out there. What caused her to become the way she is? Quintessence? Yes, I guess that was part of it, but no. Something else took her over. You can see it in her eyes. The glow they had after the rift incidents, same for Zarkon. Dakin was a force to be reckoned with, but he served someone else. My guess is the Leviathan Demon. Now, the Leviathan Demon, it destroyed Shiro's home and left his master dead. You can see some smoke in the corner there. The fire and Shiro's master dying could refer to Keith. Keith's dad is confirmed to be a firefighter, and it's implied his dad died in fire. Shiro, who raised him, died too. Or again, the fire destroying Shiro's monastery could foreshadow an eventual attack on Earth, or an attack on the Altean colonies / other planets. But one possibility for what the scene is alluding to is what happened on Dibazal and to Altea. Altea went up in flames because of Zarkon and Honerva, but something drove them to that state of mind to get them to do that. Yes, Zarkon and Honerva were already corrupting themselves before the Rift event. Their minds were already twisted. What the Rift event did revealed their darkest sides.
Zarkon fell prey to his own evil instincts. The quintessence field didn't create them. It revealed them.
It amplified the bad in them the same way it amplified the good for Allura. What drove Zarkon and Honerva fully over the edge was the Rift creatures. The things I consider to be the real versions of the Leviathan Demon. The Rift creatures are a big bad of the series. We surprisingly didn't see them when Voltron and Sincline Voltron went into the Rift. But don't worry, they will be returning one way or another. They didn't set them up in Season 3 for nothing. Maybe they've already made it into this reality, lurking around in unexpected places.
The last thing I remember is that organism in the garden falling from space.
Dakin serves the Leviathan Demon. Honerva serves the Rift creatures. She has puppets, but she herself is also a puppet. She's been doing their dirty work for thousands of years. They brought out the bad in her, changed her, and not just her. Zarkon and Lotor too. She was pregnant with Lotor when she entered the Rift with Zarkon. The creatures got to all 3 of them, and that's why Lotor's eyes were glowing during this scene too. The more corrupted she got, the longer her Altean cheek marks got. Every other Altean has cheek marks like Allura's. Honerva used to as well, until the dark creatures started getting to her. We saw Lotor's Altean cheek marks in the episode The White Lion. His marks were longer than the average Altean marks too, although the creatures didn't get to him as badly as they did to his parents. He was also affected by the creatures. Honerva wanted to go into the Rift, for knowledge, to save herself and Lotor with the quintessence, and because of the dark creatures. They took her over, and since then, her actions and motives have been influenced by them. If she dies, she comes back stronger because of her alchemy and them. The Leviathan Demon destroyed Shiro's home and his master. Zarkon and Honerva, after reaching peak corruption by the creatures, burned planet Altea into nothingness and killed Allura's father. I am so up for another Allura versus Honerva fight. Alchemist versus alchemist. Allura avenging her people, planet, and father. The Galra royal family weren't the only ones who had their eyes glow after dying and coming back to life. Yes, it happened to Shiro too, but notice Dakin's eyes after coming back as the Koranic dragon. I know I said Honerva's been dictating the game, but it's really the dark creatures that are the lore masters. Now, as I briefly said earlier, some things from Monsters and Mana not only fits Hagar, but also Lotor. Of course, he did use Team Voltron to reach his goal. They practically did his work for him, same as the adventurers for Dakin. He was the one sucking life from Alteans, using their life forces to power his ships and Riftgate. Dakin sucked the life from the people of Hunk's village. The way to save them was to kill him.
You would have to permanently defeat me in order to restore it.
Now Lotor is quote-unquote dead, Team Voltron can save the Alteans in the colony, and to an extent, like I said before, he was also a victim of the dark creatures, explaining his longer Altean marks, and why the Black Beard enters its corrupted form in his hands. The Black Beard normally looks like this, but when in Zarkon's hands after he got corrupted, when in Coran's hands when he was being controlled by Honerva, who is another corruption victim, and when in Lotor's hands, the Black Beard turns all pointy. Lotor is a bad guy with good motives, as one of the crew put it. He does bad things for a good cause. Although I think he was planning on replenishing these Alteans with quintessence from the rift. He's twisted, yet he has reasons for everything. If he had a chance to explain his plan, I'm sure he'd have said something like he was only taking as much quintessence as he was willing to give back.
We would only extract as much quintessence as could be replenished.
Although some Alteans definitely did die in the process. Nevertheless, even though I think he was planning on giving them back quintessence, no excuse, he's still done some awful things. He drove himself to madness, as Coran put it.
Zarkon fell prey to his own evil instincts. The quintessence field didn't create them. It revealed them.
Many things contributed to his fall. Of course, he himself contributed to that. Ultimately, he was his own undoing.
And in the end, your own aggression is your undoing.
Yet, what if another reason was because of the rift creatures? He unknowingly was serving them, and maybe they'll save him and bring him back in the future, kill him, and he becomes stronger, just like his parents and just like Dakin. So, what do you guys think? Was Monsters and Mana deeper than it first appeared? Will Honerva reach the Altean colony and take quintessence? Will she use Team Voltron? Will the Earth be attacked? And is she serving a bigger threat? And are there other ways this episode might have hinted at the future? But anyway, thanks for watching, and Rapids are.
The end is near, witch. I know you can sense it.